and welcome to my brand new indie game devlog. My idea is to let you tag along on my journey to building my first small game, which I've decided will be a mobile game that I want to release on Apple's App Store and on the Android Play Store. To develop the game, I am using the Unity engine. So let me start out with a quick introduction. My name is Annie, I currently live in Switzerland and I work as a software engineer after having studied electrical engineering. I've only recently gotten into game dev and I've been fascinated with how varied an activity it actually is. You get to do all kinds of stuff. Game design, coding, art and design, storytelling, though that may depend on the type of game you're making, music, and probably marketing if you want more than your friends and family to try out your game. All of this is super interesting to me, but I'm also starting from roughly zero in most of these areas except for the coding part. So let's start at the beginning. How did I come up with an idea for my first game and what is the idea? When I first started getting into game dev a couple of weeks ago, I of course wanted to build a massive and beautiful game right away and preferably be done with it and launch it in like 2 weeks. So I took to Google and YouTube to find out how to get started and quickly found that one of the biggest challenges in game dev seems to be actually finishing your game. So I figured I'd better take the advice. Start out small and focus on gaining experience and finishing my game. To do so, a mobile game seemed appropriate to me and using the Unity engine also made sense since there is a big online community, there are lots of resources and it's free. I am personally not a big mobile gamer, but there have been 2 or 3 games that I really got into, and of course it would be neat to create something that I enjoy playing myself. So to come up with an idea, I actually just sat down on the couch and tried to think of a rough basic mechanic that would be simple enough for me to implement and that seemed fun to me personally. To develop any ideas that came to my mind, I just used my iPad and made various extremely rough sketches. Let's just take a look at them. Right at the beginning, I came up with this masterpiece. I think we should pause for a moment to really take in the details. Moving on to the second page, this looks suspiciously like another game that I used to play. The idea here was that you could make cubes of the same color move away from the box you clicked on. However, I didn't actually come up with something you'd have to achieve using this mechanic. I guess the goal could be to move all cubes to the outer boxes of the playing field, and the playing field could take on different shapes depending on the level. This one was supposed to be some kind of puzzle game. I was looking out my window and unsurprisingly, there are houses. So the square in the middle here is supposed to be a house with windows and you have to place items around the house in a way that satisfies the residents' requirements of what they want to see when they look out their windows. A bit convoluted, I guess. This idea was so crappy I just cleared the entire page. And then I couldn't figure out how to delete a page in the app I was using. I think this next idea may actually be at least feasible. You get a labyrinth like this one and you have to swipe to move in a direction, with the twist being that you don't just move one box forward but you always move all the way until you hit a wall. And then this could be timed or something. But yeah, not really convincing. This one is also feasible, I think, and would be pretty casual. You have a shape or maybe multiple shapes that you drag onto the playing board, and the goal is to place the shape in a way that captures as many of the green dots and as few of the red dots as possible in as little time as possible. So every additional second you take lowers your score by 1, just like the evil red dots. The upside here is that this will probably be a very simple project, but I think personally I'd probably find this game way too boring. Finally, here's the idea I went with. You get the railway network that varies by level, of course, and you have to direct the trains spawning on the left to the correct destination on the right. You do this by operating the switches and making sure the trains go in the right direction on each junction to end up in their target destinations. Your score goes up with each train arriving at its destination, and it goes down when trains end up in the wrong place, or something like this. The speed at which the trains move could increase over time, or depending on the level, there can be special events where multiple trains spawn at once, there could be different types of trains, and so on. After all, I spent maybe 1 or 2 hours playing around with ideas in my head until I zeroed in on the train idea. I quite like it so far. It seems like a doable project with various future extensions that I could potentially build for it if I wanted to. So this is how I came up with an idea for my first game. Of course, I went right ahead and fired up Unity to start my project and implement a first prototype. Now, you're probably wondering if Unity ever stopped loading to let me get started. I'm going to end my first devlog with this massive cliffhanger, and I'll let you know what happened in my next video. Subscribe to the channel if you're interested in hearing more, and thanks for watching.